Dear brothers and sisters, the readings today speak about the importance of family life. In the reading from Hebrews, we were reminded of Abraham and Sarah, who God called to leave their land behind in their old age and to trust that he would provide a son for them, and even that their offspring would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. They would be the parents of a large family, of a growing family, of a family that would carry on for generations, even until Christ himself. For the gospel, we hear how, like Abraham and Sarah and those in the Old Testament, in the gospel for St. Joseph and Mary, the center of their family life was their faith. The center of their family life was their prayer together as a family to God. And for us, maybe this is a good time, even as we're gathering with family, and even as we see some of the struggles and challenges that we might have in our own families. We think of that and we remember that for us, where we want to be as a family is close to God in prayer. We want to have that ourselves, but then also be looking to foster that in our family and in our extended family. We know that we are at our best when we're the closest to God. When we're the furthest from God, we really struggle. When we're the furthest from God, everything is harder. We're miserable. Things don't go so well. But when we're the closest to God, we're at our very best. And so for us, thinking of Joseph and Mary and their family, and also of our families, we want to keep trying to remain close to the Lord. In the gospel today, we hear how St. Joseph is taking the Holy Family. He's leading his family to church. He's bringing them to church. He's bringing them to the temple to offer the sacrifice. For St. Joseph and Our Lady, their faith was so important to them. They wanted to follow God perfectly, to be totally faithful to him. And for us, that's a great example. When they go to the temple, we read how they meet an old man whose name is Simeon, and also someone else at the temple whose name is Anna, who is a prophetess. Simeon, the old man, is a priest in the temple, and they are coming to him to make the offerings and to ask for the blessing. Scripture says that Simeon is a righteous and devout man who was waiting for the consolation of Israel, and that the Lord had told him that he would not see death until he had seen the Messiah himself. In our church, you may know already, but this stained glass window here in the sanctuary, it depicts the presentation, and in the center is Simeon. Simeon, who is receiving Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus, and who is giving the blessing. I just wanted to point out one interesting thing that I found about the presentation and an image of Simeon. Sometimes we can use lots of words, but it's easier to have an image. Some of our Catholic art speaks so powerfully, and it doesn't take many words, but you just look at it and you see it. And it can preach in ways that maybe we can't easily do with speaking. So I just wanted to share with you the artist Rembrandt, who I'm sure you've seen many of his different works, has a few depictions of Simeon and this scene of the presentation in the temple. In fact, as a young man, Rembrandt, at the age of 25, did his first painting of the presentation. And this painting, if you want to look it up when you get home, or maybe you're already familiar with it, this painting is very detailed. It's stunning. It's in this image, he shows off, in a good way, I think, all of his artistic skills and abilities. The scene is crisp and ornate. There's a lot going on. You see Simeon and Our Lady and St. Joseph and the Christ child. You see the light shining down upon them, but that's not it. There's a lot more there. You also see the temple, which is depicted as this kind of huge, beautiful Gothic cathedral. And then you see all kinds of other people who are gathered around, who are looking in, who are watching what is going on. Some say that for Rembrandt, this image of Simeon in the presentation is an image of youthfulness, in the sense that usually in our youth, we're very ambitious. In our youth, we want to prove ourselves. We want to show that we've got it all figured out, that we can do something great. In our youth, we want to try to put everything into this one scene as much as possible. And it seems maybe that Rembrandt is kind of doing that when he paints his first attempt at the presentation. And it's great, it's beautiful. As an old man, Rembrandt, he would paint another scene of the presentation. But this one would be different. Sometimes when we're older, we see things differently. Sometimes when we're older, we can see things maybe more clearly. And for Rembrandt, it seems like that was the case. When he was younger, this first painting is very busy. There's so much going on, and it's great, but there's a lot going on. Whereas in his older age, all he paints in this depiction is an image that isn't super clear, but it's an image of Simeon holding the baby Jesus with his hands in a prayer position, and then a woman, maybe the prophetess Anna, behind him, kind of faintly, just kind of looking over his shoulder. You see in this image Simeon looking down and smiling at the baby Jesus, and the baby Jesus looking up at him in return. For this image, in some ways, it speaks more profoundly. It's a more mature image, because you can sense as soon as you look at it, the closeness, the intimacy, the intensity of this moment when Simeon is able to hold the child Jesus. For us, maybe our faith resembles that of a young Rembrandt, where we're trying to get everything in, we're trying to do everything all at once. And if that's where you're at, that's where you're at, maybe, right? But there is real wisdom in what he learned seemingly in his art, that as he went along and with his last picture, this was the last one he did before he died. It was this simple, very simple image of Simeon. But in that simplicity, this image conveys a powerful message of intimacy and closeness between Simeon and Christ. For us, I offer that because for us, maybe we can learn from Simeon to have a simple gaze to Christ. For us, we want to look at the nativity scene and be able to adore Christ, not in great and grandiose ways, but just in simple, sincere, heartfelt ways, just even like a glance of our eyes. For us, our faith, our prayer doesn't have to be super complicated. Even it's better, like Simeon, just to narrow it down with our age, maturity, and wisdom, narrowing it down, trying to go really deep into really the face of Christ. For us, we know that we're at our best. We're at our best when we're the closest to God. And maybe as we're thinking of Simeon, we can think we're at our best when we're looking to the face of the child Jesus.